Dronam cha Bhishmam cha Jayadrattam cha Karnam tathanyan api yodaviran Maya hatam svam jayima vyathistha Yashva jetasi rane sapattanan.
Drona, Bhishma, Jayadratha, Karna, and the other great warriors have already been destroyed by me. Therefore, kill them and do not be disturbed. Simply fight, and you will vanquish your enemies in battle.
635. Sanjay Vacha Etachrutva Vachanam Kesavasya Vitanjali Rvepamana Kiriti Namaskritva Bhuya Evaha Krishnam Sa Gadgadam Gita Bitaha Pranamya.
Sanjay said to Dhritarashtra, O king, after hearing these words from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the trembling Arjuna offered obeisances with folded hands again and again. He fearfully spoke to Lord Krishna in a faltering voice as follows.
Arjun Vacha Sthane Rishikesha Tava Prakritya Jagat Prarasyati Anurajyate Cha Taksamsi Bhitani Diso Dravanti Sarve Namasyanti Cha Siddha Sangaha.
Arjuna said, O master of the senses, the world becomes joyful upon hearing your name, and thus everyone becomes attached to you. Although the perfected beings offer you their respectful homage, the demons are afraid, and they flee here and there. All this is rightly done.
637. Kasmak Chatena Namaram Mahatman Garishyase Brahmanopi Adi Kartre Anante Devasa Jagan Nivasa Tam Aksaram Sadasattam Param Yat.
O Great One, greater than Brahma, you are the original creator. Why then should they not offer their respectful obeisances unto you, O limitless one, God of gods, refuge of the universe? You are the invincible source, the cause of all causes, transcendental to this material manifestation.
638. Samadhi Deva Purusha Purana Tamasya Vishwasya Param Nidhanam Vetasi Vedyam Cha Param Cha Tama Toya Tatam Vishwam Ananta Rupa.
You are the original personality of Godhead, the oldest, the ultimate sanctuary of this manifested cosmic world. You are the knower of everything, and you are all that is knowable. You are the supreme refuge above the material modes, O limitless form. This whole cosmic manifestation is pervaded by you.
639. Vayu Yamognir Varuna Shashanka Prajapatistvam Prapitamahascha Namo Namastestu Sahasrakritva Punascha Bhuyopi Namo Namaste.
You are air, and you are the supreme controller. You are fire, you are water, and you are the moon. You are Brahma, the first living creature, and you are the great grandfather. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you 1,000 times, and again and yet again.
Text 40. Nama Purastad Atha Prasthataste Namostute Sarvata Eva Sarva Ananta Viryamita Vikramastvam Sarvam Samapnosi Tatosi Sarva.
Obeisances to you from the front, from behind, and from all sides, O unbounded power. You are the master of limitless might. You are all pervading, and thus you are everything.
Text 41 and 42. Saketi matva prasabam yaduktam हे कृष्णा हे यादव हे सखेति अजानता महिमानं तवेदं मया प्रमादात् प्रणयेन वापि यच्छावरहरसार्थम् असत्कृतोऽसि विहार शय्यासन भोजनेषु एकोऽथवापि अच्युत तत्समये त्वम् अहम् अप्रमेयम्.
Thinking of you as my friend, I have rashly addressed you, O Krishna, O Yadava, O my friend, not knowing your glories. Please forgive whatever I have done in madness or in love. I have dishonored you many times, jesting as we relaxed, lay on the same bed, or sat or ate together, sometime alone and sometime in front of many friends. O infallible one, please excuse me for all those offenses.
X43 पितासि लोकस्य चराचरस्य त्वमस्य पूज्यश्च गुरुर्गरीयान् न त्वत्समोऽस्ति अव्यधिककुतोऽन्यो लोकत्रयेऽपि अप्रतिम प्रभाव.
You are the father of this complete cosmic manifestation, of the moving and the non-moving. You are its worshipable chief, the supreme spiritual master. No one is greater than you, any, nor can anyone be one with you. How then could there be anyone greater than you within the three worlds, O Lord of immeasurable power?
X44 तस्मात् प्रणम्य प्रणिधाय कायं प्रसादये त्वम् अहम् ईशम् इद्यम् पितेव पुत्रस्य सखेव सख्यौ प्रिय प्रियाय हर्षिदेव सोढम्.
You are the Supreme Lord, to be worshipped by every living being. Thus, I fall down to offer you my respectful obeisances and ask you your mercy. As a father tolerates the impudence of his son, a friend the impertinence of a friend, or a husband the familiarity of his wife, please tolerate the wrongs I may have done you.
X45 अदृष्टपूर्वं हृषितोऽस्मि दृष्ट्वा भयेन च प्रव्यथितं मनो मे तदेव मे दर्शय देवरूपं प्रसीद देवेश जगन्निवास.
After seeing this universal form, which I have never seen before, I am gladdened, but at the same time my mind is disturbed with fear. Therefore, please bestow your grace upon me and reveal again your form as the personality of Godhead, O Lord of Lords, O abode of the universe.
Text 46 किरीटीनां गदिनां चक्रहस्तम् इच्छामि त्वां द्रष्टुम् अहं तथैव तेनैव रूपेण चतुर्भुजेन सहस्रबाहो भव विश्वमूर्ते.
O universal form, O thousand-armed Lord, I wish to see you in your four-armed form, with helmeted head and with club, wheel, conch, and lotus flower in your hands. I long to see you in that form.
Text 47 श्री भगवान वाचा मया प्रसन्नेन त्वजनेदं रूपं परं दर्शितम् आत्मयोगा तेजोमयं विश्वम् अनन्तमाद्यं यन्मे त्वदन्येन न दृष्टपूर्वम्.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, happily have I shown you by my internal potency this Supreme Universal Form within the material world. No one before you has ever seen this primal form, unlimited and full of glaring effulgence.
Text 48 न वेद यज्ञाध्ययनेन दाने न च क्रियाभिः न तपोभिरुग्रैः एवं रूप शक्य अहं नृलोके drashtum tvad anyena kuru pravira.
O best of the Kuru warriors, no one before you has ever seen this universal form of mine, for neither by studying the Vedas, nor by performing sacrifices, nor by charity, nor by pious activities, nor by severe penances, can I be seen in this form in the material world.
649. Mate vyatha me cha vimuda pavo Rishva rupam goram idran mamedam Vyapeta viprita mana punastvam Tadeva me rupam idam prapashya.
You have been perturbed and bewildered by seeing this horrible feature of mine. Now let it be finished. My devotee, be free again from all disturbances. With a peaceful mind, you can now see the form you desire.
Text 50. Sanjay vacha iti arjunam vasudevas tathoktva Swakam rupam darshayam asha bhuya Asvasayam asana bitam enam Bhutva puna samya vapur mahatma.
Sanjay said to Dhritarashtra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna has spoken thus to Arjuna, displayed his real four-armed form, and at last showed his two-armed form, thus encouraging the fearful Arjuna.
Text 51. Arjuna vacha Ristavedam manusam rupam Tava somyam janadana Idanim asmi samritaha Sachetaha prakritim gataha.
When Arjuna thus saw Krishna in his original form, he said, O Janardana, seeing this human-like form so very beautiful, I am now composed in mind, and I am restored to my original nature.
Text 52. Sri Bhagavan vacha Sudurdasham itam rupam Rishvan asiyan mama Deva api asya rupasya Nityam darshana kangsina.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, this form of mine you are now seeing is very difficult to behold. Even the demigods are ever seeking the opportunity to see this form, which is so dear.
Text 53. Naham vedena tapasa Na danena na chedyaya Shakya evam vito drastum Rishvan asimam yatha.
The form you are seeing with your transcendental eyes cannot be understood simply by studying the Vedas, nor by undergoing serious penances, nor by charity, nor by worship. It is not by these means that one can see me as I am.
Text 54. Bhaktya tananyasya yanyaya shakya aham eva vidurjuna Gnatum drastum na cha bhatta tatvena pravishtum cha parantapa.
My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you, and can thus be seen directly. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding.
Text 55. Mat karma krin mat paramo mat bhakta sangha varjitaha nirvera sarva bhutesu yasa mameti pandava.
My dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contamination of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, and who is friendly to every living being, he certainly comes to me.
Om Tat Sat iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Sri Krishna Arjun Samvade Vishwarupa Darshan Yoga Nama Ekadaso Adhyayah. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu, for the opportunity.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Chandra Chaitanya Prabhu. You really recited it beautifully. And Shabani Mataji, the English was equally wonderful. So we'll now move on to today's verse, which is the last verse of this chapter, text 55. So before we read the verse, we'll say the Mangala Charanam prayers. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmalitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Panchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschacha Deshatarine. So this section we are reading is the last section of the 11th chapter entitled The Universal Form. And this last section, which runs from text 47 to 55, is entitled Only Pure Devotees See Krishna's Two-Armed Form. And the verse we're going to read today is a very, very significant verse. And the purport is quite long and is packed with deep meaning and full of spiritual instruction. So let us try to pay attention and imbibe as much as we can for our spiritual life. It is said that spiritual knowledge, sometimes it's compared either to a boat, fire, or a sword. It's compared to a boat because this material existence is like a vast ocean. And if one has a very good boat and one has a good captain, then one can traverse this ocean. It's the boat of transcendental knowledge that will carry us across. Also compared to fire, because fire is so powerful, fire can burn anything. So this knowledge, transcendental knowledge, can burn all obstacles on our spiritual path. And lastly, it's compared to a sword, because in this material existence, we are all tied up with a very tight and strong rope. But someone who has a sharp sword, he can cut the knots of that rope that's binding us. So this is the potency of the transcendental knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. So mat karma krin mat paramo mat bhakta sangha varjitaha nirvaira sarva bhuteshu yasamameti pandava. My dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contaminations of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, and who is friendly to every living being, he certainly comes to me. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anyone who wants to approach the supreme of all, the personalities of Godhead on the Krishna Loka planet, in the spiritual sky, and be intimately connected with the supreme personality of Godhead, must take this formula as stated by the Supreme himself. Therefore, this verse is considered to be the essence of Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is a book directed to the conditioned souls who are engaged in the material world with the purpose of lording it over nature and who do not know the real spiritual life. The Bhagavad Gita is meant to show how one can understand his spiritual existence and his eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality, and to teach one how to go back home, back to Godhead. Now here is the verse which clearly explains the process by which one can attain success in his spiritual activity, devotional service. As far as work is concerned, one should transfer his energy entirely to Krishna conscious activities, as stated in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.255, Anasaktasya Vishayan Yatharam Upajundataha Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yukta Vairagyam Uchyate. No work should be performed by any man except in relation to Krishna. This is called Krishna karma. One may be engaged in various activities, but one should not be attached to the result of his work. The result should be done only for him. For example, one may be engaged in business, but to transform that activity into Krishna consciousness, one has to do business for Krishna. If Krishna is the proprietor of the business, then Krishna should enjoy the profit of the business. If a businessman is in possession of thousands and thousands of dollars, and if he has to offer all this to Krishna, he can do it. This is work for Krishna. Instead of constructing a big building for his sense gratification, he can construct a nice temple for Krishna, and he can install the deity of Krishna and arrange for the deity service, as outlined in the authorized books of devotional service. This is Krishna karma. One should not be attached to the result of his work, but the result should be offered to Krishna, and one should accept as prasadam the remnants of offerings to Krishna. If one constructs a very big building for Krishna and installs the deity of Krishna, one is not prohibited from living there, but it is understood that the proprietor of the building is Krishna. This is called Krishna consciousness. If, however, one is not able to construct a temple for Krishna, one can engage himself in cleansing the temple of Krishna. That is also Krishna karma. One can cultivate a garden. Anyone who has land, in India at least, any poor man has a certain amount of land, can utilize that for Krishna, for growing flowers to offer him. One can sow tulasi plants because tulasi leaves are very important, and Krishna has recommended this in his Bhagavad Gita. Patram pushpam phalam toyam. Krishna desires that one offer him a leaf or a flower, a fruit, or a little water, and by such an offering he is satisfied. This leaf especially refers to the tulasi. So one can sow tulasi and pour water on the plant. Thus even the poorest man can engage in the service of Krishna. These are some of the examples of how one can engage in working for Krishna. I just feel so purified reading this one paragraph. There's Krishna practically in every line. And there are some commentators, they translate the Bhagavad Gita. You'll be fortunate to find one mention of Krishna in their whole translation. But here, in one paragraph, one of the purport, Prabhupada is mentioning Krishna in every line. This is the difference between a pure devotee and a mental speculator. A pure devotee brings Krishna to us. Next paragraph. The word Mat Paramaha refers to one who considers the association of Krishna in his supreme abode to be the highest perfection of life. Such a person does not wish to be elevated to the higher planets such as the moon or sun or heavenly planets, or even the highest planet of the universe, Brahmaloka. He has no attraction for that. He is only attracted to being transferred to the spiritual sky. And even in the spiritual sky, he is not satisfied with merging into the glowing Brahma Jyotir effulgence. for he wants to enter the highest spiritual planet namely Krishna Loka, Goloka Vrindavan. He has full knowledge of that planet, and therefore he is not interested in any other. As indicated by the word Mat Bhaktaha, he fully engages in devotional service, specifically in the 9 processes of devotional engagement: hearing, chanting, remembering, worshipping, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering prayers, carrying out the orders of the Lord, making friends with him, and surrendering everything to him. One can engage in all 9 devotional processes, or 8, or 7, or at least in one, and that will surely make one perfect. The term Sangha Varjitaha is very significant. One should disassociate himself from persons who are against Krishna. Not only are the atheistic persons against Krishna, but so also are those who are attracted to fruitive activities and mental speculation. Therefore, the pure form of devotional service is described in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.11 as follows: Anya bilashita sunyam jnana karmadi anavritam anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhaktir uttama. In this verse, Srila Rupa Goswami clearly states that if anyone wants to execute unalloyed devotional service, he must be freed from all kinds of material contamination. He must be freed from the association of persons who are addicted to fruitive activities and mental speculation. When freed from such unwanted association and from the contamination of material desires, one favorably cultivates knowledge of Krishna. That is called pure devotional service. Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam. Hari Bhakti Vilas 11.676. One should think of Krishna and one should act for Krishna favorably, not unfavorably. Kamsa was an enemy of Krishna's. From the very beginning of Kamsa's birth, Kamsa planned in so many ways to kill him. And because he was always unsuccessful, he was always thinking of Krishna. Thus, while working, while eating, and while sleeping, he was always Krishna conscious in every respect. But that Krishna consciousness was not favorable, and therefore, in spite of his always thinking of Krishna 24 hours, he was considered a demon, and Krishna at last killed him. Of course, anyone who is killed by Krishna attains salvation immediately. But that is not the aim of the pure devotee. The pure devotee does not even want salvation. He does not want to be transferred even to the highest planet, Goloka Vrindavan. His only objective is to serve Krishna wherever he may be. A devotee of Krishna is friendly to everyone. Therefore, it is said here that he has no enemies, nirvairaha. How is this? A devotee situated in Krishna consciousness knows that only devotional service to Krishna can relieve a person from all the problems of life. He has personal experience of this, and therefore he wants to introduce the system, Krishna consciousness, into human society. There are many examples in the history of devotees of the Lord who risk their lives, devotees of the Lord who risk their lives for the spreading of Krishna consciousness. The favorite example is Lord Jesus Christ. He was crucified by the non-devotees, but he sacrificed his life for spreading God consciousness. Of course, it would be superficial to understand that he was killed. Similarly, in India also, there are many examples such as Thakur Aridas and Prahlad Maharaj. Why such a risk? Because they wanted to spread Krishna consciousness, and it is difficult. A Krishna conscious person knows that if a man is suffering, it is due to his forgetfulness of his eternal relationship with Krishna. Therefore, the highest benefit one can render to human society is relieving one's neighbor from all material problems. In such a way, A pure devotee is engaged in the service of the Lord. Now, we can imagine how merciful Krishna is to those engaged in his service, risking everything for him. Therefore, it is certain that such persons must reach the supreme planet after leaving the body. In summary, the universal form of Krishna, which is a temporary manifestation, and the form of time which devours everything, and even the form of Vishnu, four-handed, have all been exhibited by Krishna. Thus, Krishna is the origin of all these manifestations. It is not that Krishna is a manifestation of the original Vishvarup or Vishnu. Krishna is the origin of all forms. There are hundreds and thousands of Vishnus, but for a devotee, no form of Krishna is important but the original two-handed Shyamasundar. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that those who are attached to the Shyamasundar form of Krishna in love and devotion can see him always within the heart and cannot see anything else. One should understand, therefore, that the purpose of the 11th chapter is that the form of Krishna is essential and supreme. Thus, in the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 11th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of the universal form. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Such transcendental words filled with meaning. So beautiful. So we've got 5 minutes. Prabhupada has said everything. But let's see if we can churn a little bit of what Srila Prabhupada said. So this verse, Prabhupada says, is considered the essence of Bhagavad Gita. Why is it considered the essence of Bhagavad Gita? Because Prabhupada says it gives the formula on how to be intimately connected with Sri Krishna in the spiritual world. If you have the formula of what you are trying to achieve, it means you simply have to follow the formula, one ingredient after the other, and the result will be automatic. So in the same way, Prabhupada is saying that this verse is so important because he's given the formula. And if you have the formula, just like if you have the formula or you have the recipe, you simply have to follow step by step by step, and the outcome is certain. So we are getting this formula, and it is really the most precious formula of our lives that we ever received. We should treasure this formula, and we should very carefully implement the steps given in this formula. And Prabhupada says, here is the verse which clearly explains the process by which one can attain success in spiritual activity, devotional service. Many people feel that spiritual life is very difficult. It's very confusing. And therefore they struggle. But Prabhupada is saying something to the contrary here. It's saying this very clearly, it explains the process. And one can attain success. Success is guaranteed. Now the next question is, what is that formula? And this is what Krishna has explained in this verse and which Prabhupada has elaborated. And Prabhupada says the first thing in relation to the formula is that one should transfer his energy entirely to Krishna conscious activities. So the first aspect of the formula, all of us perform activities. All of us have energy. We are directing towards some activity, towards some goal, towards some purpose. All we have to do, the formula says, take that energy and take those activities and transfer it to Krishna. Make Krishna the center of those activities. Now we are performing many activities, and we have different centers we have formed. Sometimes we make ourselves the center. Sometimes we make our family the center. Sometimes we make our country the center. Sometimes we make the community our center. In all our activities, we have different centers. So the formula says, replace whatever center you've got and you put Krishna in the center. And when Krishna is in the center, that is the formula. Just put Krishna in the center of our activity. And Srila Prabhupada translates one very beautiful verse from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Anasaktasya Vishayan Yatartam Upajundataha Nirbandhas Krishna Sambandhe Yukta Vairagyam Uchyate. So this verse is very relevant. Prabhupada has chosen the most appropriate verse. And this verse is explaining what activities. Now, some people think, okay, maybe I can't put Krishna in the center of that activity. So I should give up the activity. So this verse is saying, no, you don't have to give up any activity. You only have to situate it rightly. And the translation of this verse is, when one is not attached to anything, but at the same time accepts everything in relation to Krishna, one is rightly situated above possessiveness. On the spiritual path, the yogis, they are generally very afraid of possessing anything, because they think by possessing anything, it will bring attachment. And it is attachment which keeps us bound to this material world. And this beautiful verse is saying, no, one can be totally detached, but at the same time, one can accept everything. But the difference is, we accept everything for the service of Krishna. Like in the ancient times, it is said that sadhus should never ever travel in a motor car. It was unheard of sadhus ever flying in an aeroplane. Sadhus would never use laptop, and sadhus would never touch money. But a devotee never thinks like that. A devotee thinks, if this motor car can be used in Krishna service to propagate Krishna consciousness, we'll gladly embrace it. If the aeroplane can be used to fly all over the world and plant seeds of Krishna consciousness, we gladly accept the aeroplane. If money can be used. So in this way, everything rightly situated connects us with Krishna. While on the other hand, one who rejects everything without knowledge of his relationship to Krishna is not as complete in his renunciation. Then Prabhupada goes on to quote a very nice verse. Those devotees who have been studying Srila Prabhupada's books will know this verse. Anya bilashita shunyam yana karmadi anavritam anukulyena Krishna anushilanam bhakti uttama. So this verse here explains what is pure devotional service. So there are different categories of pure devotional service. There is mixed devotional service, and then there's pure devotional service. Sometimes devotional service which is mixed with fruitive activities, that is called karma mishra bhakti. Sometimes when it's mixed with speculative knowledge jnana, it is called jnana mishra bhakti. Sometimes it is mixed with yoga or the desire for yogic siddhis, it's called yoga mishra bhakti. But then there is something called uttama bhakti. Uttama means topmost, pure bhakti. And this pure bhakti, according to this verse by Srila Rupa Goswami, it has some intrinsic qualities. In any Sanskrit definition, you have something called tatastha swarup lakshana and something called tatastha lakshana. Swarup lakshana means intrinsic And tatastha means secondary. So pure devotional service has a few intrinsic qualities as defined in this verse. Firstly, pure devotional service must be for Krishna. Oh, Krishna's expansions, his pure devotees and so on. But only Krishna. Then it must be active engagement. And then it must be in a favorable mood. Therefore, Prabhupada talks about kamsa. He was thinking of Krishna 24 hours a day, but in unfavorable mood. And then in tatastha secondary, it must be freed of any ulterior motive. It must not be covered by karma and jnana or any other pursuits, adi. So what we want is the purest bhakti, because it's only the purest bhakti that can satisfy the soul and will please Krishna. And Prabhupada said, there are people around the world and they are all advertising different pursuits in life. It is only the servants of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that have come to give this pure Uttama Bhakti. And anyone who is fortunate to come in contact with the servants of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we receive this greatest of all gifts. It's now almost 8:35. I think I'll stop here.
I think Prabhu, you should carry on.
Let's see if anyone's got any questions or comments. There's lots explained in the purport. Sometimes more comes out of the questions and the reflections that the devotees have, and we see if there's any, and if there's not, then we can carry on. So devotees, such a beautiful purport, such an amazing verse, giving us the perfect formula for success in spiritual life. Has anyone got any reflections or comments or questions about anything Srila Prabhupada said in the purport or anything that we've said so far?
Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes. The purport, it says that, especially if you go to land in India, like a poor farm, he can do everything for like planting tulsi plants. But then how is he going to maintain his family and himself?
Srila Prabhupada does not mean you say you got half an hectare of land. Even the poor man in India, they used to have some land. Prabhupada does not mean you plant full of tulsi leaves over the land. Prabhupada means in the land you can find some place for tulsi. And the rest you can grow other vegetables and take and serve your Krishna. Prabhupada is not meaning you use all that land to plant tulsi, no.
Okay, that explains quite a few. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So there's some questions here. Okay, you can ask them, then we'll come back to the question on the chat. Anybody wants to ask a question or have some reflection, some realization they got?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Rajesh Prabhu.
So when we say that you make your work Krishna conscious,
Yes.
Some people are fortunate to have work which is aligned with that. But if you're working in a corporate setting, how do you make your work Krishna conscious?
Okay, such a nice question, Rajesh Prabhu. Actually, one devotee who was a disciple of Srila Prabhupada and working in an office asked Prabhupada once the very same question that you asked now. And Prabhupada gave a very simple answer. And Prabhupada said, simply you think, I am doing this for Krishna. Meaning, whatever comes out of your work, you will offer the result to Krishna. Then Prabhupada says, that is perfect Krishna karma. We simply have to be in the consciousness that I'm doing this for Krishna, meaning that whatever results I get from the work, that will be used in Krishna service. And from a householder's point of view, he sees his house as a temple for Krishna. He sees his family members as devotees for Krishna. He sees the Lakshmi he has as for worshipping the deity, because the deity is the center of the household. and the devotee uses as much as he has for the propagation of Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada says that's perfect Krishna consciousness according to that duty. Does that answer your question, Rajesh Prabhu? It takes practice.
Yeah, I mean, it does conceptually address address that, but I think it's as you said, it's a mindset shift.
Yes.
A lot of time when you're working, it's very difficult to have that thinking, even though it's there in the back of your mind.
Very true. Prabhupada said the sincere chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra in the morning hours before one goes to work will help one to maintain such a consciousness during one's work. So therefore, in our spiritual practices, the sincere and attentive chanting of the holy names in the morning is such an important aspect of our sadhana. And any other questions or comments? There's one question from Santosh Mataji. How many times does Krishna reveal his universal form? Santosh Mataji, from this 11th chapter we've studied, Krishna said that he has not shown his universal form to anyone else before this. So prior to speaking to Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has made the point clear in this chapter that he has not shown it to anyone else. But we know that following Krishna's appearance in his original form, when he came as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he showed this universal form to Advaita Acharya. It is also mentioned as Prabhupada in the purport. Partial universal form he showed to Duryodhan, but that was only partial. Some other questions coming in. Detachment from material activities destroys false ego. This purifies our consciousness and thus makes it easier to connect to Krishna. Is my understanding correct? Yes. Detachment from material activities, that is just the negative. But you are saying yes, it purifies our consciousness and it makes it easier to connect to Krishna. Yes. So what you are saying, Emma Mataji, there's two aspects to our advancement. One is to detach from the material, and the other is to attach to the spiritual, attach to Krishna. Prabhupada says when we direct our activities to Krishna consciousness, that means we're holding on to Krishna consciousness, automatically we detach. It's like I've got this phone in my hand. If I want to leave the phone, if I want to pick up my bead bag, automatically I leave the phone and then I'll pick up the bead bag. And once I got the bead bag, my hand is occupied. Then I'm not going to catch the phone. So in the same way, when we engage ourselves in Krishna consciousness activities, in the same way, automatically we become detached. We become free of the false ego and we become purified. It is the means and it is the end also. Did Krishna not show his universal form to Mother Yashoda? Sharad is asking the question. That was a different type of universal form, Sharad. There's Vishvarup and Virat Rup. So Krishna showed Mother Yashoda the planetary systems, but Mother Yashoda did not see what Arjuna saw as described in this chapter 11 of Bhagavad Gita. Any other questions or comments? If there's not, I'll just draw on one particular activity which is very important and relevant to us. And that's this phrase, Nirvairaha Sarva Bhuteshu, friendly to all living beings. We want to become dear to Krishna. We really want to become dear to Krishna. And Prabhupada mentions in this verse that when we become friendly to all living beings, and not friendly only in the sense of maybe feeding them and patting them. Prabhupada says, giving them Krishna consciousness, because the highest gift we can give any living entity is the gift of Krishna consciousness. Because when they get Krishna consciousness, they get the highest benefit. So Prabhupada is emphasizing really to his followers, the Prabhupada Anugas, and we are trying to be Prabhupada Anugas, that there is one aspect of this formula by which we can become dear to Krishna in a very easy way. And that is, in our life, we take some risk to bring people to Krishna. Therefore, I'm always so much in awe and gratitude to Divinam Prabhu, because he's always trying to engage the devotees in the Sankirtan mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because even unknowingly, we may not know what we're doing, but if we become engaged in this activity, we come out of our comfort zone. We take some little risk to give people Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada is saying, as in the purport, we automatically become very dear to Krishna. So this formula Prabhupada has given is given us an aspect of that formula. I feel is a nugget, a gold nugget in this formula. Nirvairai Sarva Bhuteshu. Become friend to all of living entities by spreading Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada concludes by saying the Lord is very merciful to a person engaged according to this verse 1155, and such a person reaches the highest planet. So let us try, let us pray that somehow in our lives we can become engaged in Krishna consciousness, like in this verse. And all success is there. And Prabhupada gives two warnings. Don't associate with materialistic persons, and don't associate with persons who are mixed in their intentions. Simply associate with pure devotees. If you associate with pure devotees, they will rub off. Their bhakti will rub off on us. It is said a pure devotee emanates bhakti shakti, comes out of the body, bhakti shakti. And if we come in the proximity of a pure devotee, that bhakti shakti will also permeate us. So, and if we come in the association of materialistic persons, that karma shakti will infiltrate us. If we come in contact with persons who are after jnana, liberation only they're chasing, or yogic siddhis, that consciousness will infiltrate us. So therefore, we don't want our consciousness to be infiltrated by that type of consciousness. So we keep away from those consciousness and we stay close to the pure devotees. And yes, that's beautiful. So thank you very much. If there's no more further questions or reflections or comments, I'll give a minute more if anyone wants to share their reflection or comment.
Prabhuji, just the last question. What about, in a family, don't everybody feels the same way as you are feeling about Krishna? There may be some family members who are anti you or do not want to believe what you are telling them. How can we can't stay away if they are near family members, isn't it? We can go and we have to meet them, then we have to chat, we can talk about Krishna, but if they're not interested, then we can't do anything about it. But we have to stay in contact with them.
That's true, Mataji. That's the reality of many of us, our situation. Prabhupada said the trick is to touch water but not get wet. So we give our association but we don't take. But that requires us to be spiritually strong. And Prabhupada once said something that really, really touched my heart. If always we are remembering our constitutional position that we are servant of Krishna, and we are in the mood that this person is not Krishna conscious now, but if I act in a way that they can see the love, or they can see, Prabhupada says the best example of preaching is our own behavior. So sometimes they may not very readily acceptable, but if we emanate love, we emanate compassion, we see always are happy, we are always peaceful, then automatically people who are not devotees, they are experiencing the opposite. If they simply see in us, they'll think, you know, Puja Mataji has something. She always seems happy. She's always peaceful. And she's always content. She must have something. And I wonder. So one day they may ask you, Puja Mataji, what do you have, Puja Mataji? Can you please share with me? So the best preaching is our example, Puja Mataji, and to be tolerant of all their shortcomings and whatever lackings they have. Compassion. Compassion is very, very important. We see everyone with compassion. Everyone is in a different stage of their life, in their journey. And we try to be compassionate, give them Krishna consciousness, but if they're not ready for it, we pray for them and we hope for the best for them.
Yeah.
Also keep on feeding prasadam.
Yes,
Yeah.
Jarat Prabhu. Yes,
Yes.
prasadam.
Yeah. Thank Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, everyone. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to your service.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.